want to try to break that record?
Yeah!
Here we go. Good morning, Leah.
Good morning, Mrs. Starkey. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Adam. Good morning, Tyler. Good morning, Chris. Good morning, Adam. Good morning, Devin.
Good morning, Miles. Good morning, Debbie. Good morning, Tucker.
Good morning, Miles. Good morning, Jake.
Good morning, Jake. Good morning, Matt. Good morning, Harry. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Erica. Good morning, Melissa. Good morning, Melissa. Good morning, Shirley. Good morning, Colin. Good morning, Jaylee. Good morning, Jaylee. Good morning, Colin. Good morning,
Good morning, Grace.
Wow. 16. 17.
19.
Oh!
You guys broke the record.
Alright.
Can we try it one more time?
19.
We're going to do 2 balls.
Two balls.
So our record for 2 balls is 35 seconds. You ready?
Yep.
Yeah, here we go. Good morning, Leah.
Good morning, Mrs. Starkey. Good morning, Ian.
Good morning, Ian. Good morning, Adam.
Good morning,
Good morning, Adam. Good morning, Devin.
Good morning, David.
Good morning, Miles. Good morning. Oh, good morning, Jake.
Good morning, Jen. Good morning, Grace. 32.
Can we beat the cheetah record?
Okay. All right, boys and girls. Good job breaking your records. 2 records broken today. All right. This morning for our activity, we're going to be reading a story, and it's called When Charlie McButton Loses Power. And we're going to practice our summarizing and retelling a story today during morning meeting. All right, When Charlie McButton Loses Power by Suzanne Collins. Charlie McButton had likes and like-nots. The things he liked involved handsets and bots, computerized games where he battled bad creatures. The things he liked didn't have blow-up features. Then one day a thunderstorm blew into town and brought his tech empire tumbling down. A lightning bolt struck an electrical tower, and Charlie McButton, his whole world lost power. He looked left and he looked right, and his heart filled with dread. The TV, the lights, and his clock were all dead. He jumped to his feet, his lungs gasping for air. The room spun around and he clung to his chair. He tried to cry, "Help!" but managed just to squeak. The blackout had blacked out his power to speak. Thank goodness his mother had ears like a bat. She came to his room and gave him a pat. "Oh, Charlie," she said, picking up on his fears, "the lights will come back when the bad weather clears. You'll have to find something without plugs to play. Read a book, clean your room, sing a song, model clay." Could anything be duller than clay? Soggy gray clay on a soggy gray day? He hated the way clay got under his nails, and how he could only make snowmen and snails. He dove for a gadget he'd outgrown last spring. It was handheld, outdated, and not much of a thing, but he clutched the old toy like a lifeline that day. See, it ran on one battery, the size AAA. He flicked the on-off switch and on double quick, but no happy humming sound followed that click. He unlatched a hatch and his blood turned to ice. "The battery is gone from my backup device." World records were set in the 10-meter dash. As away down the hallway he flew like a flash, seeking one battery, just one AAA, that would rescue one boy from a gray day of clay. But just when his search nearly drove him insane, he ran past the bedroom of Isabel Jane. His 3-year-old sister was happily walking, a doll back and forth. And the doll, it was talking. Now, dolls didn't talk on their own as a rule. They needed a power source, some kind of fuel. In less than a second, he'd made his decision. Call it bad judgment, a real lack of vision. Somehow his head didn't warn of his folly. And Charlie McButton, he pounced on that dolly. He plucked out his prize through the baby doll's dress and Isabel Jane made a sound of distress. It was just a short walk to the foot of the stair where resided the McButton time-out chair. To add to the fun of his term in the seat, Isabel Jane came to play at his feet, and Isabel Jane, the Battery Queen, had more triple A's than he'd ever seen. They powered her puppies, they powered her clocks, they powered her talkative alphabet blocks. Assaulted by non-stop mechanical chatter, Charlie McButton got madder and madder. He snapped at his sis from his time-out time zone. How come you can't ever just leave me alone? Her eyes filled with tears, and she gave them a rub. She went to the bathroom and hid in the tub. Then Charlie McButton felt totally rotten and couldn't help thinking some things he'd forgotten. Namely, he thought that for sisters that toddle, Isabel Jane was a pretty good model. She clearly adored him. She didn't have fleas, and at dinner she'd secretly eat up his peas. And sometimes, although he'd hotly denied it, he'd just like to sit there beside her in quiet, wrapped up in a blanket, watching TV, her head on his shoulder, her foot on his knee. He sat and he thought and he stared at the rain. When his time out was done, he found Isabel Jane. From the edge of the tub, she gave him a peek. So he said, "Hey, are we playing hide and seek?" She was happy at once and ran into the hall. She loved playing hide and go seek most of all. They took turns being it and counting to 10. They hid in the plants and the guinea pig pen. And when he found Isabel Jane in her quilt, they decided a big blanket fort should be built. And then the gloom made him think about dragons and spells. So Charlie McButton became the great wizard McSmells. And Isabel Jane, who desired a role, magically changed to his faithful old troll. Between tracking down dragons and brewing up lizards and handling the day-to-day business of wizards, like forging his old faithful troll a new sword, Charlie McButton forgot to be bored. At supper they ate under real candlelight. The daytime had melted right into the night, and after they'd all been asleep for an hour, the world came alive with a big surge of power. Oh, it's finally back, Charlie thought with a grin. Tomorrow I'll wake up and I can plug in. But another thought hit him that he couldn't explain. He might also find dragons with Isabel Jane. Okay, so remember when we retell a story, we're going to start with the main character, and we're going to talk about who is the main character of this story. Tucker.
Isn't it like Charlie McBean or whatever it was?
Charlie McButton. Is he the main character of the story?
Yeah.
All right, so we can say Charlie.
Wait, is it him and his sister, or is it just him?
Just because he lost power and his sisters.
Who is the story about? Charlie. And during the story, do we meet other characters?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but Charlie is the main character. The author wants you to know what's happening with Charlie. So somebody is Charlie. What did Charlie want during this story? Ian.
A AAA battery.
So he wanted a AAA battery. Is there anything else he wanted? Cooper?
Power.
He wanted power. Yeah. Anything else? Katie?
He wanted to be able to play on his devices again.
He wanted to plug in. And in every story, there's a problem, right? So the problem here we're going to describe with the word but. So Charlie wanted to plug in. He wanted a AAA battery. He wanted power, but why couldn't he have that? Miles?
Because he wanted like the AAA battery from his sister, but she wouldn't give it to him.
But did she have a choice to give it to him? What did he do?
Like, he just, like, ran after it.
He pounced on the doll and took it. So, what happened after that? Devin?
She started crying.
And what happened to Charlie? He was in a timeout. Let's think about why did he want AAA battery and the power? Why did he want to be plugged in? What was the problem of the story? Katie?
He didn't have a battery for his last device.
Why did he need a battery?
Because that's what it ran off.
All right, so more importantly, what happened to Charlie in his house?
It lost power.
The house lost power, okay? So, would you agree that that's the main problem of the story? There's no power. So he can't do the things he normally wants to do. How many of you like to plug in when you get home and play video games? Yeah? And so when the power's out, how many of you have backup devices that run on batteries? So what would happen to you if those devices didn't have power?
I drive to ride it.
All right, so back to this. So Charlie wanted power, but he lost power. So what did he have to do, Devin?
He had to get a substitute activity.
He had to do something else.
So he found a toy that ran off a battery, but the battery wasn't charged.
So he had to entertain himself another way, right?
So they played hide and go seek.
But she wouldn't give it.
So after he got put in the timeout for the battery, what did he end up doing with his
So
sister?
he went to go play hide and go seek with his sister.
He played with his sister.
And thought about what he did.
And he played with Isabel Jane. At the end of the story, what did he learn? Ian?
That having no power isn't all that bad.
It's not all that bad, and that Isabel Jane's not all that bad either, is she? Yeah. Okay. So, we're going to be writing poetry this month. So I wanted to read you a book that rhymed, and I thought that the boys in this class might really like that book, since you guys are always talking to me about video games. Okay. All right. We're going to move to the share portion of our morning meeting. So, Adam, can you sneak back into the circle? Okay, this morning for share, we're going to have 4 people share a little known fact about themselves. And so it might go something like this. If it were my turn to go, I would say a little known fact about me is that I was the lead in my high school play, and it was a musical, and that's how I met my husband. Now, I shared something with you, and I'm not going to give you an opportunity to ask questions just yet, okay? After the share, we're going to let someone else share, and then at the end of the 4 people sharing, if you have questions for the people, you can raise your hand, and we're going to do a few questions. All right, Tucker, would you like to go first?
I'll pass.
Okay. Leah? Katie?
Okay. A little known fact about me is I play guitar and piano, and I've played piano since kindergarten, I think.
Adam?
Little known fact about me is that I used to play guitar for 3 years with someone in our grade's dad in Kittery.
You ready, Tucker?
Sure. My coach for baseball is an Army sergeant, and it's really hard to practice because we have an Army sergeant like breathing over our heads. So you're just like, I didn't do nothing wrong, did I?
Leah?
A little known fact about me is that my favorite book author is Mary Downingham.
Mary Downingham?